Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and it's another hump day. Joining me, as always, is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome to all of our listeners. I have an interesting question for you. A plane crashed in the jungle, and every single person died. Who survived?
Clearly, there's a trick to this question.
What trick?
I don't know, but I'm not seeing it, so that's the problem. I mean, the person that saw the plane crash and knows that everyone died.
I mean, that would make sense. It's actually married couples.
Oh, every single person
Died. Yep.
Would we be safe somehow?
We made it.
Oh, man, I missed that one real bad.
It's okay. When I ran across this, I actually had to read it twice for me to get it for the first time. Was that clever?
I think so.
And I wonder how many of our listeners got it, or what their very unique and clever responses were to this.
So, for new listeners out there, I will give a quick rundown of what we do here on this channel. Voice sleuths for stories on Reddit. We talk about them and give our opinions.
Detective Voice on the case.
As always.
So now that everybody knows what the 411 is on us, why don't you go ahead? Wait, what?
411.
I know it's a 90s thing, but I like it. How dare you? It's the 411.
We're old.
So why don't you go ahead and pick up your water, because it's Hydration Wednesday. Don't forget to drink water out there, guys. It's too hot.
Stay hydrated.
And while you go ahead and guzzle down your water, Damas, why don't we glug? Why don't we go ahead and start delving into these stories? For any of our listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I the a-hole for making my husband care for our baby while he has a headache? I, 29 female, and my partner, 27 male, have been together for 7 years and have a child together, 1 male. He's about as challenging as you'd expect a 1-year-old to be, but he's easy to play with, eats well, and sleeps well. We both work full-time, him at home and me in a non-profit. Our son goes to daycare. When we are all at home, I generally do the cooking, cleaning, childcare, waking up with the baby. I occasionally ask for help with chores and childcare, with on and off success. Frequently, my partner is too busy or doesn't want to, cooking specifically, or is working out of town. Recently, he even took a 3-week boys' trip. I am in the final stages of applying for a job with the government. I've worked my butt off from freshman year in university to have this job, and I am taking it extremely seriously. My next assignment is a written essay that I had less than 48 hours of notice for. I am not a quick writer, and this is not my strong suit, so I was hoping to get it done tonight. And that way, if I needed more time, I could work on it tomorrow or the next day. I went to let my partner know I'd be leaving our son home while I went to the library to do the essay. I know if I stay home, the baby is going to get sent into the room. He was in bed and said no, he had a headache and needed to rest. He didn't sleep well and had to work today. I let him know that this is extremely important to me and I don't want to rush. He ignored me. I let him know again, I'm leaving. He is upset with me that he is feeling awful and I am still putting the work on him. I've prepped dinner. Baby literally just needs to be fed, supervised, and put to sleep. I don't even care if they veg out and watch Bluey. But he is still sick. Am I the a-hole to insist on going?
'Tis peak, my lord. We have a really crappy partner right now.
Which one?
Oh, well, there's only one. How dare the OP want to better her life and be successful in the things that she's striven so hard to be successful in.
How could you?
She's been working towards this for, I guess, since freshman year of college. And she's now 27?
Correct.
So we've been at this dream for a minute. For your partner not to put something ahead of himself in that moment speaks to probably a lot more that's been going on in this relationship than we know. Over a headache? Give me a break. We all have days where we don't feel good. But you know what? You get up and you suck it the fuck up.
Damn.
I'm sorry. I never can get behind when partners are bad partners. It's unacceptable, especially when it's something like this. I understand if we're dealing with like a medical issue where your husband cannot be trusted alone with the child, or we're dealing with something in that manner. Then you make concessions or backup plans, parents, family, friends, all of those things to try to bridge the gap where he can't. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is someone who works from home that had a little headache and can't possibly watch his 1-year-old for however many hours it takes you at the library to write your essay. That is very important to you. I got no room for sympathy for someone like that. I don't care how bad your headache is. In fact, I've been going through some pretty bad migraines myself lately. But you know what? That does not stop me from doing work and continuing with life. We all got to deal with something. It's learning how to cope with them till it gets better. But yeah, your husband really doesn't have an excuse here. That level of selfishness would honestly have me reassessing what it is I'm getting out of this relationship. You sound like you're doing a lot of the heavy work, even though you work as well. And see, you don't work from home. You have to go away from the home. He's not cooking. That's another thing that'll get me right up is when partners don't cook for each other or their families. You have a responsibility to each other to keep that balanced. No one likes cooking all the time, man. And maybe there are some people that do. Congrats to you if that's who you are. But a lot of us don't and need that support to switch off. So sounds like you're putting up with a lot more at home than you should be. The balance definitely doesn't sound like it's there, especially when you're willing to go, I have a headache. Sorry that these important things are going on in your life and I'm not willing to see them. I would reassess some of that. Get into couples counseling. Really understand what it is you're getting out of the relationship, OP. But you are not the a-hole.
The consensus on Reddit is our OP's not the a-hole. Redditors had a range of things to say here. There was speculation on OP's husband actually trying to sabotage this opportunity with this job to just being neglectful. In the end, if you are a parent and make a child, it is your responsibility to do all that you can for your children's and your overall family's life. You can't live like you're single because you're not anymore. And for me, I say that just because our OP said recently her husband took a 3-week boys trip. I don't mind that people have the time to do the things that they like to do, but they also have to understand that when you do those things, you need to give those courtesies back to your partner.
100%.
And she was alone for 3 weeks with a child that would have been under 1 while working, while cleaning, while cooking and waking up and doing all of it all alone. The fact that she asked, I just need this time and I know I cannot concentrate because this child, as much as I love this child, is going to come in and keep bothering me in the middle of me doing this important thing. I need to make sure our baby's taken care of and I need to go ahead and focus on this for just a little bit. They're not asking for days away. They're asking for hours away. And I think that's honestly what made a lot of people upset. You shouldn't have to argue with your partner to care about doing their half of things.
Yep.
And if you do have to argue constantly, not just a one-off little like one night, he really didn't want to cook and I had to cook. That's not the one-off. It's something that our OP says happens a lot. That's a problem.
Agreed.
Now, our OP does give a small update, and they say he got out of bed and watched the baby with no further complaints. Had a good talk about fairness and expectations because, as many of you have guessed, this is nowhere near the first time. He is well aware he's on thin ice and some major adjustments need to be made. I hope OP is able to do what needs to be done. I have to say the last thing that anybody should feel is alone when it comes to 1, raising a child and 2, being in a partnership together like this.
Well, she says she's about to start the next leg of her professional career, right? I hope you do get the job, OP, but your husband needs to learn how to carry half of the load, especially if you're going on to this next venture. You're going to need it. It's important. Definitely get into couples counseling.
I agree with that. Well, let's go on to our next story and see what you think about bringing a parent to work day. Am I the a-hole to not let my husband bring his mom to work? My husband, 30 male, works as a lecturer in local university. Sometimes he has classes in another city approximately an hour away. And whenever he does, he always brings his mom 60-ish. His mom waits in the car, and after his class ends, they go shopping to a nearby mall or eat at a restaurant. I said to him and his mom, he shouldn't do that because he looks unprofessional if his colleague or student know that. He can go out with her on a weekend or any other time, while on the other hand, His mom is a widow and really enjoys quality time with my husband. Am I the a-hole?
Why are you jealous of that relationship, OP? Why are you not looking inwards and seeing, am I the problem first? You just got done telling me that your husband has a pretty good relationship with his mom and every once in a while takes her to spend time with someone. I think most of us understand the one thing that kills you when you get older is loneliness. And if you don't take the time to spend with the people you love, man, it goes away. It's so fast. So the fact that you have a problem with him spending time with his aging mother is interesting to me. I have a story just like this. I had a teacher when I was growing up. He was one of my favorites because I was known as a class clown. I never took anything serious, and he held my feet to that fire. And I learned a lot about making sure that while I can be a cut up, grades have to seriously come first. So I've always put him in that upper echelon of professors that I've ever had. I remember I think it was an evening time. I don't know why it was on campus, but I walked by his classroom and I saw an elderly woman next to him. And she was just, I think at that point she was knitting or something like that. And my teacher, I don't want to say his name, but he was a very Italian man. And he talked with a very slow cadence. And he'd always say, if I have to say it more than once, then you didn't listen. It was just how he was. He had that machismo.
Oh.
And I think the first couple times I had interactions with him, I felt like he worked for the mob, just in how he carried himself. But I remember coming in, I'm getting so far off the subject here. I remember coming in and seeing him and asking who that was. And he said, this is my mom. I bring her in I think he brought her in every Tuesdays and Wednesdays in the campus. And I'm not crying, you're crying.
It got you in the feels.
I just remember being younger and having that moment shown, because I remember her saying that she was just thankful for not being alone. And he was a good teacher. Anyway, in my opinion, you're being a little short-sighted here. If he's bringing his mother into there, then he knows what he's dealing with. The campus knows what he's doing. By the way, when my professor would take his mom in, he would drive all the way up onto the curb in front of the door and walk his mom into the classrooms. So, yeah, good memories. Anyway, if you're stressing that your husband is spending too much time or is being unprofessional because he's bringing his mom into a place where they've already said it's okay, then that's a you problem, not a them problem, in my opinion.
So the consensus on Reddit is that our OP is the a-hole. And for Redditors, they felt that OP was being controlling and even judgmental. For other Redditors, they said that bringing someone to work at an office, let's say a normal 9-to-5 job, is different than individuals who work in academia.
Yes.
Additionally, for other Redditors, it was the logistics of it. Why would OP's husband and the mother-in-law take 2 cars to drive a cumulative total of 4 hours between both cars? 1 hour there, 1 hour back per car, for a lecture that may only take a few hours. Also, in no way is the mother-in-law interrupting the lecture. So where's the harm? Now, our OP did add some edited to ads to their post. Let me go ahead and read that and see if anything changes based on your stance, Damas. They put edited to add 1, mother-in-law can accompany him on weekends or any other time. I just thought, why doesn't she join him after his class instead of waiting the whole time?
Why do you have to control when someone spends time with someone?
2, some comments remind me that he always reschedules or changes it to online class whenever his mom can't accompany him. Maybe that's why I thought it was weird.
Why is it weird to you? What he does with his time in his classroom?
He said that the students never complain because they prefer online class anyway. That's why I forgot to include it in the OG post.
All this makes you sound like is you're controlling. It didn't change how I feel about you, OP.
Let me try this other edited to add. I know from my post that I am an a-hole and weirdo for asking. I clearly have no idea about academia and it has nothing to do with me. I just thought it was weird because in my logic, I compare it as I bring my parent to my cubicle/work desk and you guys saying that it's not the case, and I understand. But those who said I am a jealous bitch to my mother-in-law, immature and controlling, geez, it's not like I never let my husband meet my mother-in-law on the weekend or dinner, and we just got home from her house today eating dinner, so no argument or anything.
The fact that you have to put parameters on days, because she keeps going back to, you could see her on the weekend, is a big issue. And that's what makes you controlling, is you've set the boundaries for what they can do with each other.
I find this whole premise as being absolutely sweet in my mind. For a majority of my adulthood and for my career, I've worked in an office setting. And there are differences based on every job of what you can and can't do with each job as you go between.
Yeah, there are perks and detractors.
There are some, like in academia, where you're able to bring family and you're able to spend time with them. And I honestly, my heart turns over in such a good way when I hear of stories like our OP's husband who just wants to take his mom out and spend time and make good memories while you can. And the same thing with your teacher when it came to how you view it. You only have so much time. And to know that as you're getting older, you're not getting forgotten and you're not some burden. And someone does love you and want to spend time with you just to be with you, even if it's just to have silent company, is such a wonderful notion. I have to say our OP does come across as being jealous to me. I don't know if it's something that they would like when they're older, but those are things that you need to set with your family on what you would like, hopefully in the future, not in a demanding way, but in a small request. I can just imagine where if you raised your kids to be empathetic individuals, and it's not always guaranteed that anybody can be empathetic. Some people have to work on empathy. Some people have to work on compassion. Some people have to see beyond the circle that is themselves. But if that's what you would like your children to be, those are things that you can teach them. And in the future, as long as you're loving and caring to your kids, you'd be surprised how loving and caring your kids will be back when you're older. But as I said, nothing's ever a guarantee. So these moments, such as your experience, Damas, it's a blessing when you can see how kind and open-hearted individuals can be, especially when you're considering an older person who might be experiencing a lot of loneliness and you know that they no longer have their other half in their life.
I made it a point to come there every Tuesday and Thursday just to see them even after I got done with that course. I kept coming back right around, because he'd always bring her in around 4:30 to start. He would grade papers and she would just do whatever she would next to his desk in her chair and just say hi. I did that for like years, 4 years. Yeah.
I bet you were reminded of your grandma, huh?
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of us, when we have those type of relationships, unfortunately, look to see them in others. And she was great.
Well, let's go on to our next story and see what you think about some pancakes.
Love them.
Am I the a-hole for refusing pancakes my friend's girlfriend made? I, 24 female, am back in my hometown on a week-long trip for my father's 50th birthday. It's a big milestone birthday for him, and I haven't had much time for my family or friends growing up since moving to the East Coast. Last night, I met with a few of my friends from high school who are still hanging around the area. We hit up a few bars together. Generally, it was an okay time. Not really my type of place anymore, but it was so nice to see my best friend, 25 male, who I grew up with. He's still as amazing as he was the day we were separated. We all got a little drunk on shit beers, and he offered to let me come home with him and crash instead of going home to my folks drunk at midnight. I wanted to be known that I appreciate this. The last thing I needed was my mom getting up to nag me about going out on a Tuesday. We got back to his place and his girlfriend was still up. She was cold and standoffish when we got in, which made me super uncomfortable. I just wanted to go to bed, but we all also had a minor disagreement on where I'd be sleeping. Eventually, I compromised on that, and my bestie talked her into making us something to eat. Here's the big problem. I was raised to be gracious even if your host is not. I try hard to follow those rules. She ended up agreeing to make us pancakes. I wasn't wild about this idea, considering I limit my sugar intake to almost 0, but I kept my mouth shut at the time. I would have continued to keep my mouth shut, but watching her make them was too much. She put white sugar in the batter, then added blueberries for additional sugar, and then buttered the pan because fuck it, we apparently don't care about that shit here. She continued to butter the pan again every few pancakes. I suggested that maybe a non-stick, fat-free cooking spray would be better, but she pretended not to hear me. The real killer was the syrup. Maple-flavored corn syrup. So yummy. I didn't want to eat dry pancakes, even though they were probably already overwhelmingly sweet, and politely asked her if maybe they had some ingredients for me to make a smoothie instead. At this point, she got incredibly pissy and told me to eat them or not, and then threw the pan into the sink. It was so childish that I couldn't believe it. Go off, girl. Go ahead and throw a tantrum because I'd like an alternative to your gross food. I ended up having to take an Uber home in the middle of the night because they started to fight. Now I'm sitting here sobering up and wondering if maybe I should have just politely nibbled on the corner of one and gone to bed. Fuck me for wanting a smoothie, right? Am I the a-hole?
What the spice of mythy?
Pancakes.
I love pancakes. My record is 27
Yes.
pancakes in one sitting.
Big ones too, like plate-sized.
Long time ago. Anyway.
Early 20s. Start of our relationship.
So we have 2 wiener jackets and a trying to be accommodating girlfriend. We have to frame this correctly. OP is coming home late to someone else's house, which would be her bestie. It's midnight-ish. They're both drunk. There is something here in the story that I'm not sure if you can give me some clarification on. They say the initial argument happens when they're trying to figure out accommodations for where she's going to sleep. They don't say where or what the argument was about, because I believe if you had just said, well, she's crashing on the couch tonight, normally that's what ends up happening and everyone just is okay with that. No, some people are very strict about no sleeping on the couch. I've heard that several times. If that's your house, those are your rules. But do they ever clarify?
They do not clarify, but it was asked of them.
Interesting. I wonder where the OP was going to be sleeping and they had that argument. I might just leave that one there. That might be digging too hard. But what I can say is we go forward into this story and somehow after this argument, the bestie coerces, asks, I'm not sure how many times this happened, but he gets his girlfriend to make them pancakes in the middle of the night when we've already had problems. That doesn't seem like a good course of action, but the girlfriend puts up with it and makes pancakes. And it sounds like these are some dope pancakes, by the way.
Blueberries?
The fattier, the better. Obviously, you can have them the way you want. And ROP was watching the entire time. Now, as she's critiquing, is she saying this in her head or is she saying this out loud?
I think she's actually saying it in her head.
Okay. So there was no, hey, I can only have them like this, or I look out for things in my food like this while it's being cooked.
Correct.
No, you don't have to eat any food you don't want. I'm not telling you to just put up and shut up. Would some people just nibble at the corner like she says and go to bed? Yes, that's definitely in some people's wheelhouse. In hers, though, the way you went about it, to have so coldly done it in that moment, and I gotta believe there was a little more attitude to it because you say that the girlfriend's reaction to you is to throw the pan into the sink. That didn't just happen because you calmly said, no, thank you.
Or you could have said no thank you before she even made anything.
It's wild, this whole interaction, because it could have definitely been stopped by the boyfriend, or in this case, her bestie, reading the room just a little bit. But you came into someone else's home and you were rude to them. That's just what this story comes down to for me. You and your bestie are giant a-holes for what you did to his girlfriend.
The consensus on Reddit is our OP is the a-hole. For many people, they said the girlfriend had a drunken guest in her home in the middle of the night and was essentially told to accommodate. That's not even adding that then she was made to make them pancakes to where OP was essentially complaining about the sugar in her head. But then she has the nerve to say she wants a smoothie, which a girl, that's got sugar in it too.
That's true.
And had been drinking alcohol all night. Lo and behold, that also contains traces of sugar in it as well.
A lot of sugar.
In fact, many Redditors really wanted to know what the sleeping arrangement disagreement was. But as I said before, OP never replied.
That kills me because that could probably lean more into why this whole thing got kicked off the wrong way. I'm assuming she was probably more than accommodating when they came through the door, but based off of whatever that turned into being.
Or if she was woken up, I can understand her being a little like, I'm being woken up because of whatever loudness that drunk people tend to be, right? They're not very quiet. I've never been introduced to a super quiet drunk person. But in the end, I guess the girlfriend in this story probably was woken up in the middle of the night. In my mind, I imagine she probably has to go to work the next day because it was a Tuesday, so it's the middle of a work week, potentially. I can understand somebody being bothered by that. And yeah, where are those sleeping accommodations? Everybody's asking this question.
It's a little important. Maybe it's not as important as I think it is, but it would be interesting to know why this whole thing got kicked off in that way. But you are correct. It could have just been simply the fact that she got awoken in this type of manner, and it just set off the entire interaction terribly.
See, for me, it comes back to, and maybe this is just verbiage on my end, but this is where I get very literal. Our OP doesn't say this girlfriend was upset that they were coming in, right? And that she's bothered by them coming in. The literal disagreement our OP puts down was sleeping arrangements.
I think at the end of the day, we just don't have enough information on everyone's relationship within this and why our OP's girlfriend does feel so uncomfortable with it. But if she feels uncomfortable, that should have been like the end of it. It shouldn't have been something where you coerced her into making pancakes for you and someone she clearly did not feel comfortable within the house at that moment. You should have been able to read the room, whether or not you're drunk. That's still on you as the person for inviting the problem.
I just don't like OP. I think for me, that's what this stems to, because as an individual who, one, you're going into someone else's home and you're inconveniencing someone for your party time, essentially, but you couldn't even tell the host to say, please don't make me anything. I've been drinking too much. I just don't have an appetite right now.
I blame the guy just as much as I blame her, though.
The relationship between the girlfriend and this guy, that's their relationship. And if he wanted her to make him pancakes specifically, that's their relationship.
Yep.
Our OP can only control what they can control. And in the end, this woman went out of the way because it was her understanding that they both wanted these pancakes to then be snubbed by being told, I don't want to eat the food that you just made for me, that I could have said no well ahead of time. I think for me, that's the initial thing that rubs me the wrong way. She sat there absolutely judging this girlfriend in the middle of the night while she's still drunk and then decides to snub the host. Honestly, you should have just gone home. And if you cannot make the arrangements understanding that you're going to drink too much and you're going to be nagged by someone, then don't do it. Don't put your problems on other people. Like I said, I might be harsh, but it's only because this whole thing rubs me the wrong way.
I feel it.
How dare you snub pancakes? Blueberry pancakes at that. Anyways, let's go on to our last story. And I don't know, I might have to keep the drama going. I think my 38 female husband, 40 male, cheated on me yesterday and could have been going on for much longer. How do I find the truth? My 38 female husband, 40 male, and I have been together for 17 years, married for almost 15, and we have 5 kids, ranging from a teenager to a toddler. Everything in our relationship is great. He is an amazing husband and father. He provides everything we have, makes sure my emotional and physical needs are met. He makes sure we're always having fun and things are exciting. He showers me with affection, brings me flowers often. He's everything I could possibly want. I try to be the most loving and affectionate wife I can be for him, and always tell him that I love and appreciate him. Yesterday morning, I saw 2 texts on my husband's phone from a woman's name I didn't recognize that said, "Come and get it," and "You'll be surprised," with red hearts at the end of both messages. I was too shocked and mentally distraught to say anything and pretended that everything was okay. I couldn't check his phone since he left for work almost immediately after the notifications came. He came home close to an hour later last night and just said that there was traffic, but I was tracking his location, and he went out of his way and stopped in some random neighborhood for about 30 minutes. I thought we were in a great place, so I really don't want to believe he's cheating, but all the evidence points towards it. We watched a movie together last night and took the kids to the beach with some family friends today, but I'm still spiraling over this and don't know what to do. He has a wife and 5 beautiful kids who love him. I just can't understand why he would throw all that away. How do I find out the truth?
Well, OP, you look your husband of 15 years in the eyes and you ask him the question. That's all you can do. And based off the reaction, then you kind of have to create the course from there, whether or not he's going to be honest, because I also understand this. There's a lot of cheaters that won't tell you the truth. So I'm not saying that's the silver bullet to any of it, but what I am saying is it's the start. So you got to pull that Band-Aid off at some point, and it sounds like you now are coming to terms with what the repercussions of that action will be. You're going to start the cascade, whether or not that be divorce or going into couples counseling. That sounds like it needs to be had, because it's really the same story all the time. This person is perfect. We do all the right things. We say all the right things. Our family is the white picket fence. We've striven for this life and we have it now. It's perfect. Except for this one thing that I saw. I would just start with talking to your husband first and then go from there, because you really can't assess whether or not you're going to be going in any direction until you have that conversation first. I'm very sad to hear that, though. That sucks when we have all the things that we've garnered and have wanted for 17 years, right? Because you don't start at that top. You built into that. You have 5 kids. You've had this amazing marriage where you probably had to work on things because no one's perfect. So, but everything's being met. All of it, save for one thing.
You're like, uh-oh.
So
who's
what?
This woman on your phone with hearts?
Yeah, that when I saw the hearts, I hope it's something else. But when you put the hearts on each end, I was like, oh, maybe he was just having something made for you. It was a nice little surprise gift, because it sounds like he's affectionate like that with you.
And that's a possibility.
Come and get it. I'm being too naive. I want to be, because,
Well, we have an update. So let me go ahead and read this to you now. Well, this was all a massive waste of time. To clarify, there were no telltale signs of him cheating. He's very emotionally present, and we have an active sex life, and he's as loving and affectionate as usual, and he doesn't hide his phone or mysteriously disappear for hours. The thing is, after our youngest was born, I developed an eating disorder and gained close to 35 pounds in the following 2 years, and my confidence and self-esteem and our sex life was terrible during that time. For about the last year, I joined my husband in his early morning workouts and started watching my diet and cooking healthier for the family, and am down 15 pounds since. My husband was always very reassuring and affectionate, and my confidence has began to return a little, and our sex life is infinitely better than those 2 years, but I still feel somewhat insecure, especially since my husband has only gotten fitter and become even more muscular throughout our marriage. To the point, I suck at lying and hiding things from my husband, so I couldn't go with the reverse psychology approach like some suggested. Last night, after the kids went to bed, I directly told my husband that I saw the messages on his phone and tracked his location to some random neighborhood and demanded to know what was going on. He laughed and thought I was joking, and I quite literally started crying and said that I was serious and I needed the truth. He told me that we had to go outside and he wanted to show me something. He opened the trunk of his car and there was a plastic bag, and he told me to open it. It was a photo album consisting of chronological pictures of us and the kids for all 15 years of our marriage, and it was meant to be an anniversary gift for our 15th later this week. The texts were from a female coworker whose husband runs a business making photo albums for special occasions, and my husband had been talking to her about getting a customized photo album made. On Friday night, he went to their place to pick up the album, and as for the red hearts in the messages, my husband showed me his conversation with her, and she ends every single message with a red heart. The specific texts I saw were there, so I knew he hadn't deleted anything. He made jokes about how I ruined his anniversary gift, and we ended up staying up and going through the entire album and talking about old memories. And all I can say is, I'm very thankful for my husband in every way. That's the end of that.
Honesty and openness will always win. I'm happy that she didn't listen to someone telling them to reverse psychology. Don't get into all of that. When you trust someone and you're in a loving relationship, be honest. Have the questions be asked. Please don't take that type of recommendation from anyone. I cannot stress that enough. You don't want that type of relationship.
You'll know, you'll feel it, I think, in your gut if someone is not being genuine with you. I find it funny here because the moral is sometimes it's best to just go to the source.
Yes, it always is.
And honestly, when you said maybe there was a gift, I was shocked.
I'm just trying to be on the side of good.
No, this was supposed to be a surprise.
No,
and then you hit it and I was like,
everything about this relationship says that that's not what its foundations are. So I'm always going to try to look at that side. And I'm happy that that's not what this was. And by the way, a lot of people speak with hearts at the end of sentences. Voyse does it all the time.
I love hearts.
With people that are not me. So, and I had to learn that a long time ago. Like, who are these hearts for?
I don't send the kissy faces, okay?
Yeah, but hearts
I do
are for
send the
everyone.
hearts.
And
it's because love. The
When you're-
heart is more than just a finite shape that you can fit.
you can love everything in its own different way and it not be just strictly romantic or, like I said, cheating.
I find it funny because one Redditor said, moral of the story, don't always listen to us assholes on here. It worked out fine.
Yes. Don't do that. Just be honest and openly communicate with people when something comes up. That's all you can ask for in a relationship. And if you don't get that back, then you know you're on the wrong track.
And I ended off today's stories on a good note.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
I know you were a little worried at the beginning.
I was. Like, no.
Like I said, when you predict, I was like, how could you?
Yeah, the surprise got ruined, but that sounds like an amazing way to have found out. Although outside of your wife having a panic attack and crying, you being like, hey, come to the car. This was our anniversary gift that you
15 years together, baby. Our whole life.
And that goes to show, though, even though you are in a strong relationship with good foundations, we all can still be insecure. And it does happen, but don't feel bad for that. Assess it and actually ask the questions. That's important. You can't be in that space where, well, we are this strong, I don't have to ask, and then have to live with that. Because see, had she kept that going, that would have turned her. Then you start descending into other thoughts, and it starts changing how you treat somebody. So I'm happy she was able to not be above that threshold and just ask the questions. There's a lot of people that will go, well, no, we're in a strong relationship, and if I ask, it automatically means that I'm this jealous, terrible partner. No, it doesn't. Not necessarily. You have to be open and honest with people. Now, I'm not saying accuse everyone of everything the second you think something's going on. That's a step too far. But in a good relationship, you are allowed to ask each other to clarify.
I agree.
Well, was that our last story?
That was our last story.
You had a couple of them that got me choked.
The second story, I think, is the one that got you real good.
Yep. Good old memories.
That's what they're there for. I think I've definitely rubbed off my glass half full on you, though.
I would say yes. I was a lot harder before I met you.
Oh, yes. I think you were such a realist person that it almost bordered into being pessimistic when you and I first started getting together.
Long, long ago.
And then I think for me, I was so pie in the sky, optimistic on the world, even though I've been hurt a bunch of times, that you had to bring my feet down and remind me that, hey, look, there's the earth here. You can look up at the sky, but just remember that the earth is a real thing.
You're still pie in the sky.
Yeah, I'll still look up at the sky, but I think you hold my hand to make sure my feet are on the ground.
I think I just hold on to your ankle and I come floating up with you too now.
Join me.
Yep. Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you've enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We regularly post on Mondays and Wednesdays. And on Fridays, we have our Damas After Dark episodes on our Patreon.
It's kind of cool.
And we would just like to say to all of our Teatreons, thank you for all of your support, truly.
Yes, we love and appreciate every single one of y'all. And as always, listeners, we look forward to hearing your opinions in the comments below. What did you think about the stories today?
I think they were all fun.
way too much emotion in this one.
The best types of emotions in some ways.
It's been a minute since you caught me with one of these.
I love hitting you in the
Teacher
feels.
story.
It makes me love you more.
I guess the only thing I really have to say on that singular story is I guess it would be the OP. Don't be afraid of other people loving the people you love. You'd be surprised how that can turn into a restriction. And we need to be loved. You can't have enough of it.
The world doesn't have enough of it.
So hopefully she learned that lesson here. But it sounds like she was very combative. And it's not my problem. It's their problem. And it should be only on weekends.
Yeah, it was very weird. And I hope that they really took the feedback the right way.
Now, if it was eating into their daily lives, that this was happening all the time, you're allowed to, as a partner, have something to say to your partner about that. Hey, we need to find a little more balance. But I didn't hear where that was destroying or having a big impact on their lives. So I don't know. I guess maybe I'd need more information. But from what we got, it just sounds like she was holding on way too hard.
I agree.
And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.